everybody. I am Kristi Whitfield. I'm the Director of the Department of Small and Local Business Development, and this is our Build Back Better series. And today I am joined by the inimitable Cary Hatch. Welcome, Cary. Thank you for being with us today. And you are the owner of MBD Communications, right? Tell us about your business and tell us about weathering the storm. I invited you because you are a business titan and you have been at it for a few minutes, a few ticks here. And at first, I thought we were going to talk about just marketing during challenging times. But then as we were discussing it, I realized that you have done more than just sort of market through some different times. So tell me the times you've weathered, and I think we'll start there.
Delighted to be with you today, and am doubly delighted to share some of my scar tissue. As a business owner, sometimes you say to yourself, wow, I didn't sign up for this. And we were talking earlier about, whether it's COVID-19 or the civil unrest or even economic downturns, these are things you don't necessarily want to embrace as part of your business planning, but it's part of life. And Kristi, you're so kind to include me in this conversation because over the last 3 or 4 decades, and particularly early on in my career, you say, wow, really, is this really happening to me? And it's so easy to become bitter about that. It's not as much fun. It's twice the work or 10 times the amount of work with a lot less joy. But it's the things you have to do to weather the storm. And part of that is just embracing that life isn't always fair. And this is just part of that. But I will guarantee you, any entrepreneur that has faced that, as you and I have, finds that it's so worth it in the end. It's easy to say now, but for me, owning an advertising and marketing communications firm in the 80s and prevailing over 3 or 4 decades has been quite a challenge. There were times when I felt like I just wanted to go to a corner and curl up in a ball and say, why me? Why now? Why can't I do things better? Why can't I make this go away? And then once you realize, it's really about embracing that challenge and looking for your inner resilience. What do you need to do financially? What numbers do you need to get around you so that you can make the right decisions, not the easy decisions. Sometimes they're pretty tough, but it's that moment of truth when you have to make the hard decisions, and you have to be able to reach out for help. There's no shame in asking for help. And as entrepreneurs, we carry a lot of pride in who we are and what we do. And sometimes we're hesitant to acknowledge that you're going through a tough time. Reaching out to your agency for help, reaching out to friends, even competitors. Interestingly enough, sometimes you can combine forces to make change happen that can help your business and even your industry within the district. So doing those things are key. Thinking about your customers, what can you do to help them, as a way to engender even more loyalty when we come through this. That's critical. Looking to your team members. Sometimes it means making those really tough decisions about laying people off or furloughing people, or even, certainly as an entrepreneur, cutting your own salary to preserve those jobs. Your self-health, particularly, your physical health, but also your mental health. Not beating up on yourself. The first recession I went through in the 1990s was particularly hard for me. I'll be honest with you. I purchased the company in '87, and as an owner in 1990, I got down to my last $10,000, and I still had rent, and I still had a staff. But doubling down on what I needed to do for collections, what I needed to do in terms of making the tough financial decisions, and then really tripling down on new business development. That's a chance when we diversified our customer base. Primarily, we worked for commercial real estate firms and financial institutions. That was an inflection point where we looked to technology clients. So just recalibrating all aspects of you, your staff, your customers, and your business is certainly key. You and I talked earlier about, it's easy to be bitter. One of the things that I heard recently was, are you going to be bitter or are you going to be better? And you have to make that decision for yourself.
Well, and Cary, and there's so much in there. I want to say one thing, if there's anything good coming out of COVID-19, I will say that a lot of entrepreneurs suffer in silence, and they take a lot on, in the darkness of their own kitchen tables, and they are trying to figure these things out. And I want to just underscore something that you said, which is that reaching out and asking for help. Everyone is suffering through the COVID-19 crisis. And previously people were figuring a lot of things out alone, but everyone having COVID-19, I think, is a little bit of a liberating moment, because it does allow people to say, we all have this. We all have COVID-19, and we are all trying to figure out what these things are. It's amplifying some other problems for some businesses, but it is an entree for us. And I think reaching out to businesses that you might not have reached out to, I think there's a pride. There's a pride when you're an entrepreneur, and now when you go through enough waves, and you've been in business for, a couple of decades now, maybe talk about those waves and weathering. When you weather a few storms, maybe it doesn't maybe get easier, but you've got the muscle memory of having gone through it before. So maybe talk a little bit about the resilience of being through this a few times, because I think that might also be helpful for people to hear.
No, absolutely. One of the things I did early on, and I've been through so many downturns. Well, in fact, let me share a couple with you. I mentioned that I purchased the company in '87. It was July of '87. The stock market, you probably heard of Black Friday in October of '87. That was tough, because when people think about advertising and marketing budgets, it's generally the first thing to get cut. So that was rough. The 1990 recession I mentioned, commercial real estate. I mean, we lost 40% of our revenue in the first 3 months of 1990, and I had just gotten married in December. That's something we haven't touched on. Communicating with your family, because that pride thing, it's hard. It's telling your family also. It's not just external competitors or even staff members. Working through this with your family is critical as well, and bringing them along and being candid but optimistic. The 2000 Y2K and the dot-com boom and bust was a rough one. The anthrax situation here, we handled National Geographic, and we're handling so much of their direct mail. Well, guess what? It all got mailed out of DC. All of a sudden, all that revenue stopped for me. The 2008 Great Recession, and now, and then there's various what I call garden variety downturns, sporadic government shutdowns being in the district, and then the pandemic. That muscle memory, when this downturn came, obviously I was upset, but it felt familiar. And for that, I felt blessed, because I knew that there was a way out. I knew that with, planning and thoughtful consideration about how to devise a path forward, I'd already proven to myself that I've done it before, I can do it again. So it's about communicating with your customers, seeing what they're experiencing, being able to forecast your expenses, looking at your industry association. In my case, it's the 4As, the American Association of Advertising Agencies. We did apply for our PPP. We were approved for that. Reaching out, I mentioned earlier, competitors. Sometimes this is an opportunity not just for collaboration, but also merger and acquisition activities. Sometimes you and your competitor come out ahead and stronger together. But it's something maybe you wouldn't have considered even 3 months ago, or certainly, a year or two prior. You might want to look at that as a strategy. All the while, you have to be intellectually honest with yourself about what are the opportunities for survival and what does success look like, and then committing to that.
Well, I think that COVID-19 has sort of laid bare for many people, the fact that the world is different now. All of the things that the rules are changing. Things that used to make a place very profitable, very valuable, now make that place feel dangerous and a little more challenging. And when the rules change, entrepreneurs act. And I think that, for people who are clinging to wanting things to go back, those are the businesses, candidly, that will be left behind.
That's right.
And I think that the businesses that are ready to sort of continue to move forward, we're months into this pandemic, and we are preparing for the next phase of reopening. What advice do you have for the people that are ready and able to look forward?
Well, there's a saying that I think really applies here. The notion of kissing change on the lips comes to mind. It's necessary. You have to buy into that as a philosophy. Again, you can't be bitter about it. You have to see where you contribute, where you fit, where your organization, your staff, is it a new customer base? Is it a new product? Is it a new brand? You have to embrace change. You said it. I can think of so many industry colleagues of mine that didn't embrace things in the 90s, the early 2000s. They're not around anymore. This is part of successful entrepreneurship, is the ability. The word pivot has been overused, but you have to adapt and evolve and buy into the notion. You may have to invest in training. You may have to do a merger or an acquisition. You may have to calibrate your staff. What does success look like for you? Where are the opportunities? Where are the resources? Mm-hmm. The district, your team has provided so many opportunities for resources, collaboration, success stories of other firms, other organizations that they can tap into. And honestly, the mental part of this for me, because this is all very personal, was very real, and it still is. Talking to other organizations and CEOs, they don't have to be in my industry, knowing how they're evolving, sharing resources and information. I mean, the network of leaders that came out of PPP applications, just helping other people out, connecting my friends, restaurant owners, connecting them to resources that could be helpful. Helping other people is also a great source of pride. And for me, it's therapy, because I'm doing something, not just to help us, and sometimes we are, but mostly I'm not. I'm talking with other people to see how I can be a resource to them.
Well, Cary, and I think that is a great place to maybe end this, which is saying that we don't know. And I think it is important to say this, especially, as government and as leaders in the industry that you're in, is that we don't know. But what we do know is that we will get through this together. We will take these steps together, and we will figure these things out together. I think we have seen many, many examples in the past month, and we will continue to see these examples of people coming together and taking the next steps and figuring these things out together. The reason we're doing this Build Back Better series is to highlight the resources that we have in the government, and to highlight the fact that we are here together to figure it out. And I think that is the message that I want people to have. I want people to know that this administration cares, that I care, that DSLBD is here to pick up the phone, to be live voices, to help people, and to figure out whatever those next steps are. Because the world has changed 3 times in the last 3 months. But whatever those steps are, that we will come together, and that we will be stronger on the others. Cary, how do people find you if they want to find you?
My email is chatch, HATCH, at mdbcomm.com. You can also find me on Facebook and Twitter at Cary Hatch. And delighted to speak with anybody who feels that I might be able to help.
Wonderful. Well, Cary, thank you so much. I just really appreciate your time and your insights. And I think you are a true testimony to the resilience of the entrepreneurial spirit in our city. So thank you very much. I'm Kristi Whitfield. I'm the Director of the Department of Small and Local Business Development. This is our Build Back Better series. Thanks for watching.